What if I told you that one company quietly powers millions of electric cars around the world, yet most people have literally never even heard its name? Well, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're shedding some light on a true titan of industry. We're going to be looking at CATL, the invisible architect that is quietly building the entire infrastructure of the electric vehicle empire.
I want you to just think about this for a second. Who really powers the global EV revolution? When we think of electric vehicles, names like Tesla, Ford, or BYD probably jump right to mind. But the true kingmaker of this era, it was actually founded in China back in 2011 by Robin Zeng. And in just over a decade, it has fundamentally rewired the entire global automotive industry.
See, as consumers, we tend to buy flashy car brands. We look at the shiny badge on the hood of a Tesla, a BMW, a Ford, or a VW. But right underneath that shiny exterior sits the invisible infrastructure layer, and that is CATL. They operate completely behind the scenes. They aren't trying to sell you a car. They're actually building the foundational technology that makes all of those cars go.
Okay, let's dive into this because the sheer scale of this invisible empire is honestly staggering. 39.2%. In 2025 alone, CATL installed over 464 gigawatt-hours of EV batteries globally. To put that into perspective, that translates to nearly 4 out of every 10 EV batteries worldwide coming directly from them. They hold the lion's share of the global market more than any other company on Earth.
So here's our roadmap for today. We're going to start with their product strategy, move on to their platform business model, and then examine the scale economics flywheel. Finally, we'll take a look at risk and sustainability and how they basically act as the Intel inside of EVs.
All right, Section 1, Product Strategy. And the key takeaway here, the battery is everything. To really understand CATL, you have to grasp that whoever controls the battery controls EV economics. In most electric vehicles, the battery alone makes up literally 30 to 40% of the total cost of the car. It dictates the range, the charging speed, and crucially, the profit margins. Now, CATL didn't grab its massive market share through, flashy consumer marketing. They won by ruthlessly optimizing 4 engineering and production pillars: cost, scale, energy density, and manufacturing efficiency. While other companies got totally distracted by hype, CATL just kept its head down and focused purely on executing those fundamentals better than anyone else.
A massive part of that execution was actually a really strategic pivot. See, early EV makers were busy chasing these expensive nickel-based batteries to get the absolute maximum driving range. But those came with sky-high raw material costs and, frankly, serious fire risks. Meanwhile, CATL leaned heavily into LFP, or lithium iron phosphate batteries. At first, the industry kind of wrote LFP off because it offered slightly less range. But CATL realized that for the mass market, things like affordability, safety, and a super long lifespan actually matter way more to consumers. And it was a genius move. Today, even Tesla uses CATL's LFP batteries in several of its mass-market vehicles.
On top of that, CATL completely rethought the physical design of the battery itself. Traditional battery manufacturing is super bulky. You have cells which go inside modules, which go inside structural packaging. It wastes a whole lot of physical space. So CATL innovated what's called cell-to-pack technology. By just removing all that redundant packaging, they fit significantly more battery capacity into the exact same physical footprint. It's like a giant puzzle where they removed all the useless border pieces. This means lighter vehicles, incredible energy density, and, you guessed it, substantially lower manufacturing costs.
Moving on to Section 2, Platform Business Model. Because if you think CATL is just a battery supplier, you're missing the bigger picture.
CATL actually has 4 distinct revenue engines driving its empire. First is obviously their core, EV batteries for passenger cars and commercial fleets. But check out the others. They do energy storage for massive solar farms and AI data centers. They're building battery swapping networks to eliminate charging wait times for commercial fleets. And finally, software. They develop the complex battery management and thermal optimization systems inside the cars. These 4 engines completely transform CATL from a mere supplier into a deeply integrated, highly sticky platform business. Once automakers plug into CATL's software and hardware ecosystem, switching to a competitor becomes an incredibly painful headache.
And their potential outside of cars? It's staggering, 27.6%. That represents CATL's massive global market share in 2025 for energy storage batteries alone. As the whole world transitions to renewable energy and builds out these massive AI data centers, the demand for industrial battery storage is absolutely skyrocketing. This energy storage market could eventually rival the size of the EV battery market itself, which gives CATL this massive second engine for long-term financial sustainability.
All right, Section 3, the Scale Economics Flywheel. This is where we look at the brutal reality of industrial-scale manufacturing. Building batteries at a global scale is notoriously difficult. Even tiny defects can cause explosive costs. But CATL weaponized that difficulty by mastering production to create this relentless flywheel. Step 1, build massive global factories. Step 2, achieve vastly lower unit costs through that sheer scale. Step 3, offer those low costs to secure contracts with even more automakers. And Step 4, use that incoming revenue to build even more factories. Their massive scale creates faster learning cycles and stronger supplier leverage, making it incredibly expensive and practically impossible for any competitor to catch up.
And this dynamic really forces the industry's hand. As the quote goes, instead of building everything internally, many automakers partner with CATL. Think about it. Building a battery pipeline requires immense chemistry expertise, secured raw materials, and literally billions in capital. Rather than risking all of that, major global automakers just plug directly into CATL. This establishes a really powerful network effect. The more automakers they supply, the cheaper their batteries get, reinforcing their dominance over and over again.
Which brings us to Section 4, Risk and Sustainability. Because let's be real, holding a near 40% global market share is never entirely guaranteed.
There are some very real business vulnerabilities here. First off, geopolitical tensions. As a Chinese company operating in a highly strategic industry, they face heavy scrutiny and trade restrictions from Western governments who are worried about supply chain dependencies. Second, their profit margins are exposed to the wild price volatility of raw materials like lithium and nickel. Third, tech disruption. If the industry suddenly pivots to next-generation solid-state batteries and CATL somehow misses the jump, their moat evaporates. And finally, automakers like Tesla and BYD are increasingly trying to build batteries in-house to capture those profit margins for themselves.
But to counter these substantial risks, CATL is definitely not sitting still. They're executing an aggressive global expansion strategy. They're investing heavily to build massive manufacturing facilities outside of China, particularly in Europe. By localizing their supply chains, they're aiming to bypass those trade anxieties entirely. The goal is to position themselves not as a foreign supplier, but as a local, strategic industrial partner embedded right in the domestic economies of their clients.
Finally, Section 5, the Intel inside of EVs. Let's synthesize what this immense platform and scale actually mean for the global tech landscape.
I want you to think about TSMC in the semiconductor industry, or Amazon Web Services in cloud computing. Those companies don't make the shiny consumer products we buy. They're the invisible ecosystem enablers that power the whole system behind the scenes. Well, CATL functions the exact same way for the electric vehicle ecosystem. They're the foundational layer that makes the entire industry possible.
It really boils perfectly down to this thought. Car brands may change, but battery infrastructure remains essential. CATL doesn't need to guess whether Tesla, Ford, or some brand new startup is going to win the EV price wars. As long as the overall adoption of electric vehicles keeps growing, CATL's infrastructure just continues to scale. They are beautifully positioned to win, regardless of whose badge happens to be on the steering wheel.
And the crazy part? They are already looking way past traditional batteries. CATL's expanding horizons are pushing them toward becoming a full-scale energy technology platform. We're talking about integrating next-generation chemistry, smart electric infrastructure, and AI-powered manufacturing. In fact, industry discussions reveal they are actively deploying humanoid robotics directly into their battery production environments to absolutely maximize industrial efficiency. They are quite literally building the factories of the future. Which leaves us with this final burning question. Will CATL become the ultimate invisible energy technology platform powering our future? We started today by looking at a company most consumers have never even heard of. But by mastering manufacturing scale, platform economics, and incredible chemistry innovation, CATL has built the infrastructure beneath an entire global transition. The EV revolution isn't just about the flashy cars on the road, it's really about the batteries inside them. And right now, one invisible giant is quietly powering them all. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and as always, keep questioning what's under the hood.